While my first video was to do with my general thoughts of playing Final Fantasy XIV, as well as being a newbie to MMORPGs, this video is to do with the 14 things I've actually enjoyed about playing Final Fantasy XIV. So here's my list. Number 1. I am a lover of story and narrative driven games, but Final Fantasy XIV takes this narrative building, character building to the next level. NPC stories told throughout the world, either via quests or with speech bubbles appearing above NPCs' heads. For example, take this cutscene that has nothing to do with your own story, but shows the story of this adventurer party that's lost a team member and blaming on the mage for not pulling their weight. It's a simple exchange, but it all builds to a vast and interesting world. Number 2. There are no shortage of cutscenes in this game, each one well thought out, adding to the overall story, side quests, or just building the world. For a game of this age, I was expecting the cutscenes to be static and simple, but the movement of the characters helps keep it interesting, making sure you stay invested in the story. Number 3. It's a simple idea, but the recommended gear button is a godsend to a narrative-driven gamer like myself. It allows me and you to simply check from time to time to make sure that we have the best equipment selected, without having to inspect each item every time we pick something up. There's 2 benefits to this. It saves time, but also eases me into this game that is so vast. I'm sure later in the game I'll have to look more into each item to see which is best for my style of gameplay, but also change it from role to role. But for the moment, this button is an amazing feature for a beginner. Number 4. How big this world is. I've already kind of mentioned how large this world is, but until I started playing, I can see how much thought must have gone into building each area to keep it fresh and new whenever you explore that area for the first time. The only negative to this world being so big is that in the beginning of the game, it's a little bit annoying getting around on foot, but as soon as you got your first chocobo, the world really opens up, allowing you to explore this amazing and vast world. I know I haven't even scratched the surface, but I'm looking forward to seeing what areas are out there down the road. Number 5. Item comparison when selecting a reward from a quest. For someone who's new to this game, this allowed for easy understanding of which items to select to progress my character and avoid pointless or unusable items at this point in the game. Number 6. The limit break style is simple but ideal for this type of game. I mean, I do like the full cutscenes that you get in Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, but I can see why they've done it more simply like this, because this is an online game, so you're going to have to play with other people, and having a full cutscene every time someone gets a limit break is just not feasible. So I do like this about this game. Number 7. The training area is something I should have done a lot sooner than I did. I thought how I was playing was good enough. However, doing the training area, this showed me a lot of the basic options for combat that I just wasn't using. So by doing the training area, it taught me a lot and made my gameplay a lot easier. For example, I wasn't actually selecting enemies correctly, so rather than rotating around them with ease, I was free running, making it much harder to view the whole map, see enemies, and take advantage of dodging, basically. So my advice, if you are a beginner, which probably a lot of people aren't, definitely do the training area when it comes available to you. Not only will you learn the basics of combat, but you'll also earn some gear as well. Number 8. Joining a company. I have to be honest with you, I haven't explored this feature much in the game yet. I like the idea of factions, which hopefully will unlock new narratives and stories within the world. The only part of this feature I've done so far is unlocking the chocobo and picking which company. I thought I'd keep it simple. I went with the Storm Company as it's based where I start the game. It's something I'm looking forward to exploring as I get more into the game. Number 9. While this isn't a feature, it is something I like about Final Fantasy games. They bring in names of characters that you already know. It doesn't add anything, but I like the fact that they brought in Biggs and Wedge, and also Sid. And Sid obviously always tends to be a airship pilot, which he is in this one as well, so shout out for Final Fantasy 7. But yes, it's definitely something I like, the fact that the games are not connected, but they are connected via names of characters. Number 10. While I don't mind reading, having cutscenes with actual voices is great, especially for someone with dyslexia like myself. When there is voices, I can just sit back and really enjoy the scene, and therefore enjoy the narrative of the actual game itself.
Documents arrived from the students of Baldessian?
Aye, my lady. They arrived but recently.
Number 11. Getting the chocobo. As I already mentioned, unlocking the chocobo frees up the game so much. Getting around is a hell of a lot easier, therefore helping the narrative to move a lot quicker. Running is fine, but it takes ages in this game. However, just remember you have the chocobo. To begin with, I was so used to running around everywhere, I forgot I had it and therefore forgot to use it. Also, just a side note, I love that the fact that chocobo music comes on every time you go to ride it. Number 12. The design of monsters in Final Fantasy XIV is fantastic. Throughout my gameplay, each monster has been unique, well thought out, making the battles and dungeon designs unique every time you come across them. I mean, look at this sub-boss, Hellbender. Looks cool as a slimy lizard, but when you take a closer look you can see the care to detail that has gone onto this boss. From the yellow spots on its back to the wobbly things on its head. And this is only a sub-boss in a small section of this dungeon, so you can imagine what the actual bosses of each dungeon is going to be like. Number 13. Carrying on from this sub-boss is the narrative within the dungeons themselves. I thought there might be simple dungeons within Final Fantasy XIV where you fight a few basic enemies, then maybe a sub-boss, and then the final boss of the dungeon. But what I have found is that the developers of Final Fantasy XIV have taken things to the next level to keep it engaging and therefore keep us interested. Take the Hellbender fight for example. I thought, okay, I'm getting to the end of this sub-boss. Its health is getting low, it's going to end soon. And then out of nowhere, a dragon shows up and finishes the Hellbender off, and then just flies off. So when you think you're about to defeat an enemy, it's actually defeated for you. Not only does this make the dungeon more interesting, but also tease up the final boss of the dungeon. Again, just highlights how the narrative-driven elements of this game are just brilliant. Number 14. The top thing I've liked about Final Fantasy XIV so far is the fact that I can just play it for the story. What I mean by this is that the items and equipment I receive from completing quests or dungeons is all I need as a beginner. I haven't had to worry about crafting or buying equipment, as the equipment I already have is enough to get me through the gameplay and the story. This therefore allows me to focus on diving into the world and enjoying the story, and not worry about having the right equipment to get me past the next phase of the game. As a gamer who doesn't mind a challenge, but for this type of game I just want to enjoy the story, this has been a great thing. I know this might change down the road, and I know I might eventually have to start crafting and buying gear, but for the moment I'm just going to enjoy the story. And there's my list. Have I missed anything? Or can you think of anything I need to look into? Or maybe you disagree with what I've said? Let me know in the comments, and please do subscribe as I have more videos planned.